Good evening. Welcome to the River Falls Utility Advisory Board meeting for August 21st, 2017. Christy, can we have the roll call?
Sure. Swenson. Here. Richter. Here. Odine. Peterson.
Here.
Toom.
Here.
Mashesky.
Here. Moving on, we're looking for an approval of the minutes for June 19th, 2017.
So move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Now is the time where we open up the meeting for public comments. Do we have any this evening? Anybody at all? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, item number 1, which is the acknowledgement of the following minutes, which would be the West Central Biosolids Facility Commission and Powerful Choices minutes. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes. Now we have number 2, which is a resolution regarding the release easement for the Gulfview Water Tower.
I have something on that, just a little background. This is about 20 years overdue. I'm not sure how this slipped through the cracks, but in 1987, when the Gulfview Water Tower was built, they had a large temporary easement for construction, maneuvering, supply of storage materials and things like that when they built the water tower. And you can see on, let me see what page that is in your packet, 16 of 52, you can even see there is a house at 2512 Gulfview Drive built in that easement. I'm not sure how that passed through, but it did. And then recently we had an inquiry about a building to be built maybe at 2503 Gulfview Drive, and this easement popped up, and I said, wait a minute, you have a large easement there, it's kind of encumbering that lot. I researched it further, found out it was a temporary easement that should have been released long ago, so this is kind of cleanup, but it's related to the Gulfview Water Tower, so I'd just like to get that easement released, that temporary easement released about 20 years late. So that's what that's about today.
And that 2503, that's the blank lot up there.
That is the blank lot
Okay.
up there, yes. So there's someone inquiring about that lot.
Okay.
And in the inquisition, I noticed the easement, and I said, wait a minute. And then it got fishy when I see a house built over it at 2512, so somehow that went through. But anyway, it's time to clean this up and just make it right and get it recorded correctly at the courthouse.
Move approval of the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Moving on to new business, item number 3 is the municipal electric utility SWOT analysis.
Yeah, I put this in your packet maybe to have you think about this a little bit ahead of time. We have 2 of our management analysts here tonight that are going to help us out, Jason Roloff and Brant Johnson. There's Brant, and here comes Jason. They have the easel. Our 2 management analysts are working on a new business plan for the electric utility. When you do a business plan for any organization, it's always healthy to have a SWOT analysis. What that stands for is you want to assess your organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then recently they added another T, trends, kind of looking ahead at trends. So as we do our business plan for our electric utility, one hasn't been done in 11 years, we really want to, we kind of did one of these internally, but I'm very interested in what the Utility Advisory Board might think from your perspective. We get in a bubble sometimes and we can only think where we think, but sometimes a fresh perspective of what we think our strengths are as a municipal utility, what our weaknesses are, what our opportunities might be, what we see as threats, and then, hey, what's coming down the road that we might have to be aware of. It's very interesting looking back at the business plan that was done in 2006. Boy, they didn't see much coming as far as some of the trends that we're seeing today. I know in that 2006 analysis, they had mentioned renewable energy as a maybe. And that was only 11 years ago, like, there's some stuff coming, we're not really sure. And now we're full-blown into solar and wind and renewables, and it's kind of a big part of what we do and really trending heavily that way. So anyway, we're updating our business plan to make sure that we're still on track. Our utility is 117 years old. We're seasoned, but I don't ever want to take anything for granted because we know there are There are things that change quickly. Just ask the taxi industry, right? Who they were been around too for probably 100 years, and Uber and Lyft come along, and you get something that just changes them just like that. So we want to be on our toes here at River Falls Municipal Utilities, and Brant and Jason are here to kind of walk you through this, and you could just jump right in. We'll start with strengths, I guess. Go ahead, guys. The floor is yours. Thanks.
Yep. So we kind of started thinking about, what some of the strengths of the utility have been, and so some of the examples that we have come up with, and then Kevin as well, is we think that we have a skilled workforce here. We have a really strong reputation in the area for providing reliable power. We have a good pricing system right now. Technologically, we have a good technology right now, and then we have that local control and local authority, which has been, we believe, one of the best strengths that the utility has so far. You want to do weakness or anything like from here?
Yeah, and just some of the weaknesses that we have that we identified is an aging workforce. That's something that we've identified as something that we want to kind of look into and address as we go through the business plan. Another one is aging infrastructure. One of the things that Kevin had pointed out is that a lot of the utility lines are just at a point where we really need to be assessing whether they need to be replaced or whether we need new innovative technologies to kind of change it up a little bit, I guess. So, Yep.
And then we can keep on going on with, looking at opportunities here. And when we think of opportunities, we think of ways of which we can be ahead of the curve there. We can be more proactive, and then trends would be more reactive in that way. But for example, for opportunity that we have here is we can provide better customer service, whether that's having mobile apps for our customers to utilize, or we can have, I think it's Microsoft does like the chat pop-up button if you ever go to their website, and it's like, hey, how can I help you today, even though you don't see them or anything like that. So that's a possibility down the road of which we can think of. And then we also have to think of threats right now. We have to see battery technology. We were talking about this the other day, Kevin, about how once battery storage comes, it's going to change our whole business philosophy. So with this SWAT, we just want to get ahead of the curve. We want to be progressive in our thinking and look at those trends and opportunities, and then see what some of the weaknesses and threats are. And if we can map that out now, then we can guide ourselves for a better trend down 5 years from now or something.
Brant kind of hit it on the head, but we're really trying to make sure that we analyze every facet, or as much as we can, because this is kind of the foundation for the business plan in general. So once we get a good hold on these 5 areas of analysis, then we can really build up the business plan. So this is kind of the base level, and what we get out of our conversations, and then whatever you can provide us with is really going to help us get to a point where we want to be to make this a really thorough business plan.
So speaking of which, we want to know, what do you guys think should be on the SWAT? So
Let's start with strengths.
yes, what strengths do you think should be included on this? And we'll write it all down here. So
117 years, what's working well? What makes municipal electric a great thing for our community?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a strength in the cost of the power?
yeah, we believe so. I mean, we're partners with WPPI, and that's ensures a good guaranteed rate for a long-term contract, I believe, Kevin. And then they're really competitive throughout the region too, as well. So that's a good strength right there.
Cost stability is really what we're going for through WPPI, having those long-range contracts. So cost and cost stability, that's excellent, because that is a strength.
Is that also a threat with WPPI because they are the sole provider? We're out to, what is it, 26?
2050, 52 or 53, yeah. Yeah.
It's 2050 something. Is that a
Weakness?
weakness or a threat, or? You guys?
Yeah, I mean, you could put it in a weakness category to think about, but I don't think it is a weakness, but you could put it up there, I suppose, as, you don't have a lot of individual flexibility. Let me give you an example of that, Kevin. I think of someone like a Rice Lake. Rice Lake is a municipal electric utility, but they aren't part of the WPPI, or they're not part of any. They just buy their own individually. When prices are low for energy like they are right now, they're way ahead of the game because they'll be able to go to the market and buy power at a cheap rate. But it could swing, their swings in the cost for their residents could swing greatly because they don't have any long-term contracts. So some years they could be way ahead, and some years they could be paying double. It just depends on energy supply. Where we're going to be a lot more stable, some years we'll be paying more, but over the long run we think we'll be paying less. Hedging. So I mean, yeah, if you're a Rice Lake or someone like that's winning today, they might think that'd be a weakness. So, to your point,
I think a strength that the utility has is that there's an ownership mentality among the customers. They realize that it's locally owned and it's locally managed, and the communications is much easier. I think that's a real strength.
I know that technology is also already on here, and I think that's definitely one of the biggest points. We think about it's our little community of River Falls. We're not in the Twin Cities, but a lot of the things that have been brought before the board in the last couple of years really put us on the cutting edge with technology and things that we're doing and taking a look at. We're usually, among the first with WPPI members that enact programs and technologies. So that's definitely something that's a big strength of ours, I think.
So like
It's already on the list, but I wanted to kind of add to that a little bit for people at home.
Yeah, so willingness to take a risk on new adventures, I guess you could say.
Sure.
and two, I don't think you don't be afraid to repeat them, because once we do this with several different groups and we start hearing themes, right, that we hear consistently. So don't be afraid about doubling up thoughts either.
I think a strength in this town is, and I'm going to give Kevin some credit here, there's enough difference of opinion within people, as well as forward thinking, willingness to try green energy, to be experimental to a degree. We've got people investing in certain forms of energy, whereas in other places we're toward the top of that list. We know where we stand on that one. So that, innovative, that's a great word for it. So we have that here.
I like to build on that too. I think that's one thing that's pretty unique about this community. I think you think about the political spectrum. I think we cover the political spectrum here, but people are pretty willing to work together, which is kind of refreshing, right? And we respect each other's ideas and different ideas. And on the renewable energy side, for example, being number 1 in the state, number 4 in the country, that's all based on voluntary contributions. Again, so people volunteering to do that, to make a point of saying, hey, we're a real energy conscious community, energy efficiency conscious community, and they do that voluntarily. So those that want to participate certainly can, and we give them those opportunities. The same as community solar. That's paid for by the people who are buying into that and not on the ratepayers. So, we'll find a way to offer those things to those who want it, and those who don't want to don't have to.
Maybe another strength would be, and I don't know how to express it other than if you have a question, it seems like you're able to go to any of the supervisors or whoever is in charge of that area and have a sit down and understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. It's like a quick response in a way.
Yeah, just an openness of versus if you were working with somebody like Xcel Energy or something, you had a question about power or something. I mean, there's people you can go to, Wayne or whoever it is, they would have a meeting with you over your concerns.
Yeah, I think just the general size of the community and the organization lends to that. We're not too big and we're not too small, so you can know people by name yet, so that's an advantage.
There's over 2,000 municipals across the country, and I think one of the beauties of municipal electric is utility advisory boards and utility commissions, and then city councils who govern the utility that serves them, right? I mean, that is pretty unique, and I think that's one of the stable things, the local control. If I may chime in, it's already up there, but yeah, I mean, to have this type of representation of the community at this level, it doesn't get any more grassroots than that. And to your point about, being owned by XL Energy or something like that, you're not going to get that type of immediate reflection of your community by governing boards such as this. Yeah. So we're going to get to the power plant substation in a little bit, but just as an aside, so Wayne and I, we always go meet with XL about the new power plant substation. It's Wayne and I, and maybe our engineer, they usually bring between 18 and 20 people. They haven't covered them.
All right, moving on, weaknesses.
And this is one we'd really want to hear from you guys, just because this is kind of, we'll point out, what things do we need to improve on as a utility as a whole the next 5 years, and even beyond that too. If we know that now, if we can start working on plans now that will impact decisions 1, 2, even 5 years from now. So it's pretty key to get some of these weaknesses down.
Yeah, things that you've observed, things that people told you, or things that you just kind of have a feel for.
I have a question about the aging workforce. I've met some of the guys. They're great. And I'm not terribly concerned about the current staff or their age, but is there a concern about bringing people in? Is that part of that concern? And can you address that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of our, it's part of knowledge transfer too for us. You see less millennials, I'll pick on my own generation here. They're not going into the trades as much, for example. So that's kind of a concern that we've kind of thought of. We realized that going into trades is not going to be as popular as going into marketing or IT down the road. So, and then when we say aging system, it's just that, yeah, it's harder to replace, the seniority that leaves. And I don't even, how long did it take to get a linesman? Like, it takes a long time nowadays, I imagine, to find a qualified one that's gotten all the credentials, and that's just kind of been, that's going to be a problem for everyone, not just us. It's going to be a problem for XL. It's going to be a problem for, all the other utilities out there as well.
Patrick, were you hinting on attracting people to the community?
Well, getting trained people and attracting them. I mean, we're close to the cities. We're a nice community. I'm not too worried that we, don't have all the amenities, but we're a nice town. This is it's not so much that piece as the general trend. So.
One of the things I think that related to that, Patrick, was a strength even a few years ago was our housing inventory and the prices of housing were a strength, right? Someone could come here, find a house relatively affordably. Now, in the last 18 months of all of our new hires are really struggling finding a place to rent, finding a place to buy, and affordability is getting less all the time. So there's some pressure on that. So to your initial point about maybe a weakness is attracting and retaining qualified people due to unforeseen circumstances within the city. Even though it's a great community, but all of a sudden your housing stock could have an impact. I don't know. I think, did you allude to that?
It's
Oh.
in there.
Because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought I heard you say that. My ears went up because we were just talking about that internally a week or so ago.
Well, so Kevin, over the last maybe 3 years, has it been tough to fill positions? I mean, some tougher than others, or is it?
In the electric industry, I'll say this. Just like our linemen, those guys are raising families. They're secure in their community. They love what they do. They've taken great ownership in what they do. They're making a good living. And there's not a lot of moving around of linemen. That's why it's hard to attract a new, seasoned, veteran, journeyman lineman, because most of them are secure in their community that they're serving, and there's not a lot of moving around. Once in a while, we'll get a new young journeyman maybe didn't have a family, he or she didn't have a family yet, and then they get attracted by larger salaries from a private utility. They may have to travel, but they like the extra 10 or 15,000 a year, and they think I'm going there. So, but for people that are in that career and they get solidified, they don't move around too much, so it's hard to find. So what we've been doing, Patrick, is finding young people like Logan Schneider we have now, who's our third-year apprentice. Bring them in early, get them trained up the way our guys want them, get them bought in, and then secure them down, because it's hard to find seasoned ones on the electric side.
But you do have an apprentice program, or you
We do.
you are working, or
I
have
think we're-
that or options.
Yes, and I think we're putting more emphasis on that just for the reasons I said. I think we can find them and train them.
Is there any current need?
We're going to be hiring one yet this year, so.
Let me ask you guys, with a solar panel project, with the lift station sewer going through, the new line that's got to be run, potentially coming up, and all the I know there was issues of the solar panel park or whatever.
I would just say this, change is hard for everybody, right? I mean, I do feel for those people along that road out there across from the solar. I mean, you think about what they had 5 years ago and what they have now. I mean, their environment totally went 180 degrees, right? I mean, from an open field to now a corporate park, and the solar was just the tip of the iceberg, really. But yeah, change is hard, and they didn't like it.
So did anything come out of that as far as a weakness that the city could have addressed better, done something differently?
Yeah, if I had to do it over again, I'd probably communicate better up front. So, just, that's good, actually. That's good, actually. That's really good. And maybe a weakness is we take things for granted. Tim has said small town, we assume everybody knows and everybody's on board. That's not always the case. So that's actually a good one right there. I hadn't thought about that, but, we are a growing community. Everybody doesn't know everything. We need to maybe do a better job communicating, so that's good.
As we grow into more things like solar power and wind power or whatever, we have a new area that our people have to be trained in. So we used to just take care of lines. Now we got other areas that people have to be trained in, and we have to staff for that, because eventually
That's good.
there'll be needs.
So weaknesses, we're not trained in all the new areas coming up, all the new technology areas and renewable energy areas. Yeah, we had some inverters go down in our solar, and we don't have guys that can respond just like that to fix that stuff. So that's good, too. I knew we brought it here for a reason. You guys are thinking things we haven't even thought about. This is great.
I think we're all out of weaknesses.
Are we good there?
That's fine. Opportunities, and again, opportunities as we define it are
More proactive.
more proactive than reactive. So where trends are reactive, opportunities are proactive. So what are we doing? What do you think that we're doing that we're kind of ahead of the curve on?
And then, just for an example, one of our ones that we put down here is prepaid metering. We were discussing about that, just why that isn't a thing yet. We've been having the same type of payment structure for
117 years.
117 years. Yep. So that's kind of an example of an opportunistic.
Maybe.
Mhm.
One of the things that's already on here is the integration with smart appliances. Is that the advanced meter?
That's even above and beyond that. That's good. I'd put that down. So
And that's definitely ties back to what I said earlier about one of the strengths, where we're pretty forward thinking and cutting edge on the things that we're looking at and trying to implement.
We've been putting our toe in the water a little bit with some of the Nest thermostats and those smart thermostats, wondering how our utility can partner with somebody like that. I mean, is that a place we should even be or not? I don't know. It somehow was energy related, and it's related to conservation, and people are a little ambivalent about how they install one or where they get one or where the rebates are. Somehow I feel like somehow we should maybe be involved with that, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But so we put our toe in the water with some of that.
But there was a plan. Did you run a pilot program on that?
Yeah, we're in the
Okay.
middle of it right now.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, there's about a $150 rebate if you want a Nest thermostat.
Right. Still trying to convince my wife.
Yeah. You can know what the temperature is right now. That's a whole semester talking about how you integrate into the house, right? I mean, because here's what I always think as utility director, it's kind of fringe involves us, but if we don't do it, Google's going to do it. Somebody else is going to get between us and our customer and be offering these services. Maybe we should embrace it. Maybe that's a scary thing. Maybe we should be there. I don't know. Maybe we should be partnering. But those are opportunities I'm not sure about. And you brought them up, Adam, and that's a good one to have on the list to really be thinking about where we belong.
It's all that artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
That, personally, it scares me, but I don't know about it. I'm old. There is so much, there could be so much opportunities with artificial intelligence. It's coming so fast that Google and whoever is, I believe, my grandkids, their kids will never drive a car.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So I think, I don't know what the opportunities are there, but there's certainly something in that area.
Yeah, that's a fun topic. We don't want to talk about that tonight. I've heard like a CDL license will be it'll be worthless in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest industry in the United States is truck drivers. And that'll go away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's the biggest industry.
So what's going to happen? So what are the threats in this industry that are going to do that here?
Well, can I?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Opportunities still.
Yeah.
So to talk about, to go from the home into the home, I guess I'm equally seeing the grid, how many, I'm not worried about an EMP, but it comes up, people talk about it, and the infrastructure of our whole nation. I think we have an opportunity to say, look, the power's not gonna go out in this town. We're good, we got it. We have an opportunity to set up, whether by generation, alternative energy, the opportunity is to figure that out first and say, look, it doesn't go out here. If a storm will knock us out for a few minutes, but otherwise, we're good. How cool would it be to say that? So,
We just sold off that possibility
did we?
about 2 years ago.
Yeah, can you
With the
flesh that
diesel,
out
with
a
the
little
diesel
bit?
generation, yeah.
Oh, okay. There's another way.
And if we can get rid of the squirrels.
Now, just remember, no idea is too small or too big for this business plan, okay?
Or whatever you can, Atlas.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go back to weaknesses here. Given my background in marketing, and one of the things that I know I've talked to, Mike at Powerful Choices about, and some other city people too, is just, and it kind of, it was just brought up by Pat, kind of an underlying thing that I don't know if I don't think the utility does as good of a job marketing as they can, and that, and that's not a knock. I realize there are definitely hindrances that are put in place that don't allow you to do that, like money. You don't have an unlimited marketing budget, and that's not your primary objective either. So, I work with a lot of industries that use their own tools to do their own marketing. Things that we do, on the website, and we put things out via the bills that go out and things like that. But there's also other maybe relatively inexpensive things that you could possibly take a look at to promote. Whether it was the community solar or something like that, or even Powerful Choices, getting more people ramped up on that, so that we are number one in the U.S. too.
Right. Yeah, we're always thinking about those things. I think I personally am a little bit of a paradigm shifter because For most of the 117 years here and most municipal utilities, marketing was zero, right? People didn't do it because customers have no choice. They still don't really have a choice today, but I assume people are going to start having some different types of choices. So I'm trying to build up that emotional bank account with our customers in River Falls. So when the days when they do have a choice, they're going to go, gee, River Falls has been there for me for 20 years. And, we don't want to sell out. We need them. We want them to at least maintain our lines. Right? So I'm trying to build that up through some of that soft marketing. Though I still have customers today say, why are you marketing? I have to buy it from you. It's because I believe that I don't want to ever treat any customer like they don't have a choice. I assume at some point they will have a choice.
I think that's a great way of looking at it, for sure.
And you were talking about marketing, that we were talking about this in another instance, but, you can always go to the gas station TVs for something. You can advertise powerful choices, and then
These millennials love the gas station TVs.
I mean,
I had never thought about it. They brought it up in a meeting.
I don't read the back of newspapers about meeting minutes. I'm sorry, but I'm at the gas station, once, twice a week. You're there for 15, 20 seconds. Easy. It's right there.
There you go.
We can put Kevin on TV.
Right.
So
1 minute wrap.
Fun.
So that word choice fits perfectly into threats. They're coming at some point. So, I just in looking at all of these, I thought, and you don't have to take this seriously, it was just the passing thought that leads to the principle, but what if somebody figures out low voltage refrigeration? The biggest energy user in a home year round is suddenly not using much energy. It could happen. Air conditioners, we know what the things are that take big amounts of energy, and we're already doing lighting. I'm in people's homes as a contractor. I'm watching LED lights just take over. I can be in the same house one week and the next it's LED, and we've got our street lights figured out. So that's where we're at today. People are figuring out how to be more and more efficient to the point where it will be a choice.
You're on it, Patrick, and it's showing up so for last year or the year before was the first time in the history of electricity that we had flat growth and sometimes negative growth now. So from 1900 until, 2012, the trend line was every year we have electricity growth. And believe it or not, that trend line is now smoothing off because of a lot of the energy efficiency things that are going on. That's good for the power plants, right? We don't have to expand those. We're lengthening the life of those. But as far as revenues are concerned for utilities, all of a sudden they're flat because of some of those things. So that's a threat. I guess we just said it, but it's not on the board as flat revenues, flat or declining revenues.
Well, it's not necessarily revenues, but it's demand, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yes. Because the revenues are going to, we have 80%. This is for the audience. We have 80% fixed cost as electric utility, meaning if one electron flows through the wire and transformers, or you run it full, that cost is the same. You need the same lineman. You need the same wire that has the same lifespan. So that's interesting. That's a very good point, though, Tim. We talked about disruptors in industry. I like the taxi one because no one saw that coming with Uber and whatnot. But I think that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think the big disruptor for utilities like ourselves will be battery storage. When they figure that out and people can store renewable energy, then the game changes. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing we're going to see it in our lifetimes. In California, you can read up on it. Some of you heavy readers, they're already installing. It might even be required in the San Francisco area already. Any new construction, they have to put battery storage in the garage already for renewable energy. Even though I don't think they're that efficient yet, they're requiring that in some locales already. New construction, electric battery storage. So it's coming. I was at a conference and the guy was telling me about that from the San Francisco area.
I'm just as concerned about both regulation and deregulation. To deregulate, allowing people to go off the grid and do whatever they want. Regulation can be wonderful or terribly expensive, or both. You know, some of that's out of our hands. So, but those can be powerful factors as well.
Maybe to summarize that statement, it's unknown political climates.
Again, trends are more of a reactive way, an idea.
What's been done outside that we're not necessarily doing or haven't had on our radar that, you know, we could potentially look into.
I have to admit, I know almost nothing about how other companies, municipalities, or whatever work. So to come up with trends, I'd have to say, you're gonna have to educate me. I could guess, but
So one idea is the implementation of the SCADA program. That's kind of a trend idea right there.
SCADA allows us to electronically monitor switching and outages and things like that. That's a trend. Advanced AMI metering, smart meters, that's a trend.
And then we also kind of thought of more of having more of a social media presence out there, getting the word out about some of the programs that we have, and also being able to have more customer interaction within that media as well. So you see people on their I don't even use my computer that much at home anymore. I can do everything on my phone. And like I personally couldn't live without it. So if I can just do my bills online now, or if I need to ask a question, I can just go on my phone and do that. And we see that as a trend within utility companies around the nation, and you know, it's
Just innovations in
Yeah.
customer service in general.
Mhm.
You brought up a good idea earlier, Brant. The bubble that comes up when you come somewhere and says, "May I help you?" and you fill it out and they talk back to you one-on-one, live chat, things like that. So that's good. Some of the social media, technology for better customer interaction. The social media with utilities is a trend, and I think I'm not saying we're on the leading edge, but we're pretty active with our social media, more so than some.
Yeah, I think if we interact with more with social media, you can get more better response times out. Say there's an outage somewhere that might not be, or there's a down power line, someone can just get on Facebook Live and then just use that, and that's a better response time than maybe calling in and having a complaint card or something, like over the weekend, for example. So.
Yeah, we use Facebook. It's a precursor to a official outage management system. Someday when we get AMI metering, we'll know who's out of power immediately. People won't need to call in. It'll pop up. You'll be able to go on your phone and see who's out, how many people are out. We'll leave you notes. That's coming probably within 3-4 years here. But until then, we'll use Facebook to kind of update people. We'll go look back and laugh at that someday. It's like, we can't believe we were doing that. But
You almost can make Facebook a one-stop shop instead of having customers having to go to the city webpage, like rfcity.org. Then you can just have them go on Facebook, type up that, and it's right there. Don't need to have as many clicks and on everything.
So millennials, what's after Facebook? I'm assuming something else will trump that someday.
Huh? I mean, you got Snapchat. I mean, you're going to see a lot more video content now with data being, most cell phone carriers now are doing unlimited data now. So, I mean, you can see some of that trends going.
Yeah, just the ability to share yourself, your information, your businesses. I mean, the sharing economy, as they say, is expanding rapidly. And I think that as a municipal utility, we can really
I had done a little bit of that, the Facebook Live thing. And again, I was at a conference in Phoenix, and I was doing a little presentation on kind of some of the things we're doing. And we had a bad outage one night. I mean, it was like 1,500 customers. Well, the next morning, I went on Facebook Live and explained what happened, did a formal apology, talked about it, and people, they couldn't believe that we were doing that. And I said, it's really not hard. The technology is there. You can communicate directly with several thousand people pretty quickly. So you just have to embrace it. And because I always say, when I did that presentation that day, I said, well, imagine if you could have a news truck out in your parking lot 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you could use that to get your message out anytime you wanted to. Wouldn't that be great? Be like, awesome. Well, you really have it now with your phone. You can do that.
It's that on-demand economy now. Need it now.
You had an outage at an energy conference?
It was, I explained about the outage.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I explained about the outage. Actually, we did have an outage at an energy conference in the Dells once, which was ironic. Yeah, I think your guys' perspective interesting, you know, the 20-somethings to think about trends.
Can I ask about the trends in actual energy production? I mean, I know we're going away from coal towards alternative energies, but where are we at with the cost of producing energy? I mean, if revenues are flat, is it more expensive to make electric? I mean, you would think with improving technology, we could continue to make it cheaper, but I don't know.
The last 2 years it's been cheaper because natural gas has been cheap. So we switched a lot of the coal stuff to natural gas. So the energy prices have been down the last 24 months, directly proportional to natural gas prices being down. Assuming they're going to go up someday, you know.
So, yeah, so what happens when all of a sudden someone realizes maybe we don't have an infinite supply of natural gas?
Yeah, I mean, prices, so the price pressure's got to be up. So that's where WPPI loves to get into the 30-year contracts, at least to hold us for that long. And then people like Rice Lake that don't have these long-term contracts, they'll be going upstream, paddling upstream. It'll be tougher. So we have to admit, right, price pressures are probably up. WPPI, too, we just did 2 renewable energy big programs. One is at the Point Beach nuclear plant that was closed down. They did a huge solar array there, bought into that. And then in the Quad City area in Illinois, we just did a huge wind project. With those 2 projects, WPPI will be producing about 22% of their load now off renewable energy, believe it or not. And those last 2 purchases were actually cheaper than coal and gas after all the credits and stuff came in. So it wasn't only to do it to get on the renewable energy train. The actual production of the contracts were cheaper than coal or gas, believe it or not. I questioned that hard in one of the executive meetings, but that was the case. So 22% will be at after those 2 projects. Yeah, and if you guys lay in bed at night like me thinking about this stuff, I'm not sure you do or not. I'd probably doubt it, but if you do, you can always email them in and let us know. We'll get them on the list.
Yeah, and honestly, feel free to give any insights that you have. If you sitting down at dinner and you think, oh, I should put that in the weaknesses category, then send it to Kevin or us or whoever, and we'll make sure we integrate it in some way.
That artificial intelligence can go into trend also, couldn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think isn't that the trend, right? It's all going to your phone.
Oh yeah.
From paying bills to looking at outages to who knows what.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it personally. I think laptops are almost going to be phased out at some point because everything's going to be right on your phone or something that's a little more accessible or more personalized, I guess.
You know what I think when I see you guys looking at your phone all the time and your Apple Watches? I know what I'm thinking. How the heck do they see that?
They're just going to make them really big for us.
I see people getting emails on the Apple Watch. I'm like, I can't even see the face hardly.
Well, one of the other things now is getting big is virtual reality or even augmented reality. Think of like when Pokemon Go came, like you can just throw a Pokeball out into your screen, but it's in real life. It's like a camera. And then think of VR, like you might be able to have someone go down into the sewers virtually and then kind of have a more up close view of it or something like that. That's a trend, I would say, or even that's even an opportunity too as well. So, but
Wow. Ever-changing world and quickly. Well, thanks for chiming in. That was a good exercise. Appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Brant. Appreciate it. So when do you guys plan on having your business plan completed?
In the next couple months.
Couple months? And then we'd be bringing that full plan back to you, too, to review those. It'd be pretty fairly comprehensive.
Moving on to item number 4, which is the power plant substation building update from Kevin.
Yeah, I've just got a minor update on that to let you know that that project's still moving forward. You may have seen some dirt flying out there if you drove down Winter Street recently. Xcel Energy's already started doing some work for their building. Xcel Energy's new switch building will be inside our existing fence area. So some of that fence is torn down. They have a temporary fence. I know Wayne is working with them too to make sure they keep our site clear because we're going to be starting our building out there in just a couple weeks. So Xcel Energy, they're starting their building. We're starting our switchgear building very soon. You can see the rendering again in the packet. It's very similar to what we had talked about a couple months ago. No surprises there. I can't remember if I had mentioned to you that I'm working with a community arts base, maybe to do some art on those walls. In our last meeting, maybe do like a sequential things from 1900 till today and find some interesting pictures and art to put on there. But that project is moving along. Again, we really hope to have that done by the end of the year. So a lot of work ahead of us. So I just want to let you know that that's still progressing and a lot of stuff going on there.
Item number 5. You want to
Oh,
move
yeah,
on right to that?
You know, this kind of ties in. We had a council member ask about transmission lines and transmission lines coming into our town and where do they come from and what do they do and how do we get power. So what I did is I put together a 4-minute video. It's like, I think 4 minutes and 20 seconds. I'll play it for you tonight just to show you, give you some analogies about how we get electricity. And I made these transmission line maps so you can see where Xcel brings power into town and that our utility actually owns 11 miles of transmission line, which we get revenue off of every month. So from Xcel Energy, we're about $11,000 a month. We get revenue from our own transmission lines. To go with that, though, we also have to maintain those transmission lines. We continually assess is that a good asset to have or not. But yeah, why don't you go ahead and play that, Christine? I'm going to hand these out. This is like, where does the power come from? How does it get here?
We plug it in, we turn it on, and it works. But most of us are unaware that the electricity we are using at that very moment was produced at a power plant or other electricity generator, often miles and miles away. Today's Electricity Delivery 101 is going to take a closer look at the wires, transformers, and substations required to get the electricity from the power plant to your home or place of business instantly. Much like there are different types of roads needed to get you to and from your home, depending on the distance you're going to travel, there are different types of lines depending on how far the electricity has to travel. As it leaves the power plant, electricity gets on the interstate highway of electric lines. These transmission lines are designed to carry a great amount of electricity long distances using high voltages. These high transmission voltages range from 500 kilovolts down to 69 kilovolts before it comes into a substation in or near a community. Think of voltage like the speed of your car. Transmission lines carry high voltages long distances, just like interstate highways are used by fast-moving cars to go long distances. The higher the voltages, the farther electricity can travel efficiently. As the electricity nears the area where it will be used, it is transferred to smaller lines and lower voltages. And just like cars go through an interchange to get off the interstate highway onto smaller highways, electricity goes through a substation or series of substations where voltage is reduced so it can travel on smaller lines. When electricity runs through the substation, like our 3 in River Falls, the electricity is reduced to a voltage that can travel through neighborhoods and corporate parks, to homes and businesses in our community. But just as the speed limit on your street is too fast to pull into your garage without slowing down, the electricity voltage in your neighborhood needs to be slowed down one more time in order to deliver it safely to the end user. This final voltage reduction is done by either a pole-top transformer for an overhead service or a pad-mounted transformer on the ground for underground electric service. At this point, the electricity is at a safe voltage that can be used in your home or business. These lines that come from the transformer to the end user is called a service drop. The service drop is connected to a meter base and must be installed by a licensed electrician. In the meter base is the meter socket itself, where the meter is located to record the usage. The electricity runs through the meter and into your home or business 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. In River Falls, we have 4 transmission lines that can feed electricity to our community. Xcel Energy has 1, River Falls Municipal Utility has 2, and Dairyland Power has 1. Xcel has a transmission line that enters both the north substation and the power plant substation. We also connect with Dairyland Power transmission lines just out of town on the east side. Our wholesale power purchaser and provider, WPPI Energy, pays transmission companies to wheel our power or electrons across these lines to get it to our community, kind of like a toll road. You have to pay to get on it. These costs are built into our electric rate that we all pay. River Falls Municipal Utilities also generates some revenue from its own transmission lines that are used by Xcel Energy to transmit electrons. We have both revenues and expenditures with our 11 miles of transmission lines and continually assess the value of these assets. We know that electricity is something we depend on every moment of every day. And we are constantly working to ensure that the entire system of lines, poles, substations, and transformers are always ready to supply the electricity you need all of the time to residents and businesses of River Falls.
Well done.
Yep.
So,
Very informative.
no, it's amazing. And I had said that in the beginning. I don't know if you caught that, but yeah, that electricity that's produced instantaneously reaches the end user. It travels at the speed of light. So it's pretty amazing. Someone's predicting the loads and they're producing. And it's go down in the grids and there's people monitoring that. It's fairly sophisticated, but just to get the lights on. Thanks, Dwayne, for the
Yep,
comment.
good job, definitely. Kevin, are you guys putting that video, is it out on
Yeah,
Facebook?
I think it'll be on our
and-
YouTube channel if it's not.
Oh,
so,
YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So I just wanted to share that with you. Again, we had a question at the council level about transmission lines and how it gets here, but I thought it was very appropriate for this group too, so thanks.
For sure. Does anybody have any questions for Kevin at all?
Can I just ask, we get our power through WPPI.
Mm-hmm.
We have a power plant, but that's not enough to power River Falls, correct?
Correct. So now
So-
we have just hydro now since
Right.
we decommissioned the,
So we're buying power that's coming in on Xcel lines
Mhm.
or Dairyland
Mhm.
lines or
Mhm.
wherever. Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
yep. And then Xcel Energy needs to get their electricity out east of town. Instead of them building a transmission line, we have 2. So they said, hey, can we rent space on yours? And we sell them the space to get out to Dairylands and then keep going east. So we have a pretty good deal with them right now that we're pretty happy with. So yeah, that money we get from them seems like a nice asset, but In talking to Wayne Cyberling, those poles are aging. They have about 10 years of life left, and we're going to have to do an honest assessment with our management analysts here to see if that's a really good investment or not, is to have that transmission. I think it is, though.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Item number 6 is the finance report. And
Al Rolick. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm Al Rolick. I'm the finance director for the city. It's great to be here this evening. I found out how much or how old I'm getting, I guess, when I'm listening to Brant and Jason. It's just incredible. And, you know, when none of this stuff was available when I started out many years ago. So it's just incredible the way things are going right now.
Hey, guys, we had just a phone in our desk. That was it.
Yeah, yeah. I want to give you just kind of an update on the financial status of the utilities year-to-date. So I'll start with the electric fund. Year-to-date, the electric operating revenues are $7.34 million, which is a decrease of about $218,000 over the previous year. Included in operating expenses to date is $208,000 for the purchase of a bucket truck. This is now recorded as an expense, but it will be capitalized at the end of the year, so that expense will roll back. So right now, if you looked at our profit and loss statement, so to speak, it would show a slight, or it would show about a negative $208,000 on the year. When we roll this bucket truck back into there, we actually are above that break-even point. So, so it's not as dire as it might look on the face of it right now. Our purchase power year to date is $66,000 lower than it was in 2016. So that's kind of what Kevin was talking about. We're seeing that we're not buying as much power, but then again, we're not using as much power, which we're not selling. So that contributes to the revenue, decrease in revenue. Year to date, again, not in dollars, but in kilowatt hours, our purchases are 432,000 kilowatt hours less than they were last year. So again, kind of an indicator. We'll jump to the water fund now. The water fund year-to-date operating revenues are $922,000. This is an increase of about $77,000 year over year. The customer classes have recorded reductions in consumption totaling 10 million gallons. So we're receiving more revenue, but our consumption is actually less. Irrigation class accounts for about 46,000 or 46% of this amount. The operating expenses have increased by $97,000 in 2017 for the year to date. A lot of that, what contributes to that is we required some pump replacements for well number 6 and well number 5 that cost about $46,000 to do this year. Total expenditures are about 52% of budget on the year. If you look at that, through July, we would expect to spend about 58% of our budget, so we're actually doing well on our budget for July. In the sewer fund, our operating revenues year to date are $1.8 million, which is a slight decrease from 2016. The operating expenses have decreased by $104,000, tallying about 43% of the annual budget. Year-to-date net income is $521,000. And then looking at the stormwater fund, year-to-date operating revenues are $321,000, which is an increase of about $17,000 over 2016. Operating expenses have increased by $57,000 in part due to additional staff that's been added. In addition, the utility refunded $12,000 in stormwater fees that were found to be double charged on a utility property in error, so we refunded those dollars. The utility incurred expenditures for erosion control, landscaping, and wetland delineation, aggregating about $10,500 in 2017 that we did not have in 2016. Right now, we're running a slight loss of about $24,000 on the year in the stormwater fund. That's a brief overview. We also provided you with some of the dashboards that we do each month. I'm not going to go into detail on those, but I think as you review those on your own time, you'll see that there's a lot of trend information there that's valuable. And you can take a look at things like customers by class, water sales in terms of dollars and broken down by customer class and so forth. So there's a lot of good information there. I'll let you review that on your own. But at this point, I will stand for any questions you may have.
You know, on the, maybe you can help me on the charts,
Yes.
the kilowatt sales versus the kilowatts purchased. Did we purchase more than we sold? Or am I looking at that wrong?
Yeah, and I'm not an expert in that area, but
Well, why would that
it
be?
does look like we purchased more than we did sell at this point.
I know we do have some losses, but let me research that and get you a better answer.
I
Yeah,
just
that's
jumped
good.
out at me when I
That's
looked at
good.
the chart. Looks like we purchased more than we sold.
I will double check that and get you all an answer.
Kevin, just a question on that, though. How much transmission loss do we experience?
1%.
Okay, okay. So that accounts for a portion of that.
With the double charging, is whatever happened there unlikely to happen again?
Yeah, that was it. It had to do with a developer, and it was basically found through kind of a trial and error situation. And so, whenever we come across that, those are all unintended, obviously, and whenever we come across anything like that, we do what we can to make it right for that customer.
I was going to bring up 2 points. So you talked about water. We had water sales were down, but revenues are up. If you can remember, we did a rate increase late last year. I think that's probably the reason for that. And then in the sewer system, we talked about some of our overall expenses being down. A lot of that's due to some of the efficiencies that we did when we did the new wastewater treatment plant.
Exactly.
We have some big energy savings there, so that's showing up in some of those numbers as well.
Definitely. Yep, I would concur with that analysis. Other questions?
If you have nothing, that was great, Al. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Al. Moving on to number 8 would be the monthly utility report.
Nothing special to add other than the fact that we had our customer appreciation lunch last Thursday, and it was kind of a questionable day with some rain and overcast, and we were expecting smaller crowds. I think our largest crowd to date was about 750, and I think we had just short of 900 people that showed up last Thursday for the customer appreciation event. So outstanding event. The rain held off for the most part, but we had a line that went down to the river and down for almost 2 hours straight. So, very well attended. People seem to be getting along. Our city staff comes together and puts an awesome show together. It seems to get better every year. And then my comment to, I think it was Terry Kuzlik, was the only thing they do better than put on a great show like that is clean up after themselves. Because 90 minutes after it happened, you couldn't even tell anybody was here. They had every chair back in place, every garbage bag was gone, like nothing happened. So these guys they're good. And it was a good event for our community.
I take back what I said about marketing earlier.
Yeah. I said what happened.
You were waiting.
Somebody got the memo. So, anyway, that's all I have.
Do you have any announcements at all?
No other announcements right now either.
Okay.
So
All right, great.
things are going well. People are working hard and nose to the grindstone.
Okay.
Who's adjourned?
We are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.